Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into the story of a magnificent, literally world-shaping protagonist. And you know, it's something that gets totally dismissed all the time as just, well, simple pond scum. Yep, we're talking about algae. So settle in, because we're going to journey all the way from the absolute origins of life on our planet right up to the cutting edge of modern climate science. I promise you, your perspective on this is about to completely shift.
So think about this for a second. What if the key to our future, and I mean our climate, our food security, our clean energy, the whole shebang, what if it all actually lies in the oldest organism on Earth? I know, it kind of sounds like science fiction, right? But honestly, it is grounded in absolute biological fact.
Okay, let's dive into this. Meet blue-green algae. These microscopic little powerhouses were actually the very first organisms to produce oxygen on our planet. We're talking roughly 3 billion years ago. They literally gave Earth its first breath. And without them, well, no subsequent life on this planet, including you and me, would even be possible. It's crazy to think about.
To really wrap our heads around the massive scale of this evolution, we have to rewind the clock back 1.6 billion years. Biologists call this incredible milestone primary endosymbiosis. Basically, a single-celled eukaryote swallowed up a cyanobacterium. But actually scratch that. Instead of digesting it like a normal meal, it kept it. It created this permanent, world-altering alliance. And that exact moment eventually gave rise to the photosynthetic machinery we see in literally all plant life today.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we actually look at these micro-marvels today. I mean, think about the early pioneers, right? You had Robert Hooke drawing cells way back in 1665, and Antony van Leeuwenhoek first discovering single-celled life. Now, we've evolved to using these unbelievable modern fluorescence microscopes. We get to just sit back and watch the hidden, living mechanics of these single-celled wonders in real time.
And when we do look closely, we see something truly magical. There's this specific type of algae called volvox, and it actually dances. Seriously, down in the sunlit zones of the water. They're guided by fluid dynamics to beautifully bop and sink. They have this waltz where the colonies orbit each other like tiny little planets, and a minuet where they bounce back and forth like they're attached to an elastic band. It is quite literally a microscopic ballet. Okay, let's move into our first major section here. Section 1, a global culinary heritage, from the Neolithic era to modern plates. So human use of seaweed, it goes way, way back to the Neolithic period. We even have records of it being used in ancient China around 3000 BC. Over in Japan, nori has been this massively important food source for over 1,300 years, and Korea documented gim back in the 15th century. But get this, just imagine the sheer ingenuity of Japanese farmers back in 1670. They were throwing bamboo branches into muddy estuaries in Tokyo Bay just to catch wild seaweed spores, and then they'd move those branches to nutrient-rich rivers to grow their crops. Talk about a brilliant life hack. Now, this isn't just some regional quirk, it's a deeply ingrained global heritage. Whether we're talking about nori in Japan, wakame in Korea and China, or dulce over in Ireland and Scotland, these aquatic veggies pack a serious punch. They're loaded with quality protein, water-soluble fibers, and essential minerals like iodine and iron. Oh, and here's a fun fact that always blows people's minds. Algae is actually the true primary source of omega-3 fatty acids. Fish only have omega-3s because they eat the algae.
805 million. According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, that's the estimated number of people globally who are facing chronic undernourishment today. So why does this matter for our explainer? Well, under the right conditions, algae can grow up to 2 to 3 times their weight in a single day. Think about that. They're incredibly fast-growing, they're cheap to produce, and they hold this immense, life-saving potential as an alternative food source for our rapidly expanding population. It's a real game changer.
Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is how it brings us right into Section 2, the Victorian seaweed craze, a 19th century cultural phenomenon.
You wouldn't necessarily think it, but during the Victorian era, seaweed collecting became wildly popular. It was a huge deal, especially for young women, because it gave them a perfectly respectable excuse to get out of the house, engage with natural history, and just enjoy some outdoor freedom. Even Queen Victoria herself put together a seaweed album when she was a young girl, and this whole movement led to a massive milestone in 1843. A woman named Anna Atkins published photographs of British algae, and guys, that actually stands in history as the world's very first photographically illustrated book.
To give you a real taste of this hobby, listen to this advice from an 1881 collector's guide by A.B. Hervey.
He tells his readers, you should have a pair of pliers, a pair of scissors, 2 or 3 large white dishes, or common blotting paper. You just haul all that down to the seaside. But here's the coolest part. These meticulously pressed Victorian scrapbooks aren't just pretty antiques. Modern scientists actually use them today as highly valuable historical resources to extract real genomic DNA. How wild is that?
Let's move to our final section and see how this all builds up to today. Section 3. Saving our climate future. Bioreactors and carbon sequestration. Because you see, algae possess some absolute climate superpowers. They drive what we call blue carbon solutions. And it's a scientifically proven fact that algae absorb a staggering 50% of the world's carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. Half of it. And right now, we're actively harnessing that natural power. Scientists and engineers are literally bolting advanced algae bioreactors onto the side of industrial power plants. These microscopic little guys trap deadly greenhouse gas emissions before they hit the atmosphere, and they actually transform that captured CO2 into harvestable biomass. They are the ultimate aquatic environmental purifiers.
Which brings us to one final, really provocative thought to leave you with. If the absolute oldest life form gave Earth its very first breath of oxygen 3 billion years ago, could it also be the ultimate key to cooling our climate today? I mean, scientists are already looking at using algae to provide vital oxygen and food support for future Mars missions. It's just an incredibly hopeful vision for our future, and for sure, it demands a profound new respect for this truly spectacular organism.